I grew up in a broken single-parent family, with no memory of my father, as if he were just a stranger's name on my birth certificate. My mother remarried and had a much younger brother. From the moment he was born, I felt like an unwanted, out-of-place relic in this so-called new home. My stepfather, a quiet man with sharp eyes, never hit or yelled at me, but his coldness and indifference cut deeper than any whip. The way he looked at me was always like he was sizing up an intruder who didn't belong. The only laughter and joy in the house seemed reserved for my brother. My mother, caught in the middle, poured all her energy into maintaining the fragile balance of this new family, leaving me with a distant, guilt-tinged neglect. She might have loved me, but her love, crushed under the weight of reality, felt weightless, insignificant. So my entire adolescence was filled with repression and a desperate longing to escape. School became my only refuge, but even there, I always felt out of place. When classmates talked about weekend plans or the cool gifts their parents bought them, I'd just lower my head, pretending to focus on my work. That bone-deep loneliness made me feel like a plant frantically seeking sunlight, desperate to break through the suffocating soil. That's when I met Emily. She was the most unremarkable girl in our class, always wearing faded, worn-out clothes, her eyes carrying a weariness beyond her years. I later learned she was an orphan, raised in foster homes and supported by neighbors' charity, like a neglected weed. She felt guilty for her poor grades, as if she were letting down the people who'd helped her. We were two lonely souls, one an orphan in her own family, the other a true orphan, mirrors of each other drawn together quickly. After school, we'd sit on a bench by the river, watching the sunset in silence, feeling more at peace than we ever did talking to anyone else. The idea of running away wasn't a spur-of-the-moment decision. It was a choice we brewed together in countless silent glances. The final straw was my stepfather's birthday party, a lively gathering with relatives. My mother asked me to serve tea to the guests, and in a clumsy moment, I spilled a cup of hot tea on his expensive new suit. He didn't yell, just gave me a look of icy disdain and told my mother, "Send her to her room, she's in the way." My mother opened her mouth but said nothing, just handed me a rag. That moment snuffed out the last flicker of attachment I had to that house. That night, I texted Emily 2 words, "Leave." She replied instantly, "Yes." We barely prepared. We each stole some cash from home and stuffed a few clothes into our backpacks. My entire savings came from skipped lunches, while Emily's money was from kind neighbors. Together, we had about $200. In the dim light of dawn, we slipped out like ghosts, heading to the rundown Greyhound station in town. As the bus pulled away, the familiar yet alien streets blurred past the window. I felt no regret, only a cruel thrill and a massive fear of the unknown. Emily gripped my hand, her palm cold and sweaty. We had no destination, just bought tickets to the furthest stop. The bus engine roared, carrying 2 underage girls into a completely foreign world. The bus stopped in Chicago. The city's vibrancy and chaos swallowed us like a beast. Towering skyscrapers, endless traffic, and hurried crowds made us feel both thrilled and insignificant. Our meager savings were laughably inadequate here. The first night, we splurged on a cheap motel. By the second day, we were homeless. Underage and without work experience, finding a legitimate job was a pipe dream. Restaurants shooed us away like flies when we applied to wash dishes. Clothing stores rejected us with suspicious glances. Those days were the darkest of my life. By day, we wandered the city, pretending to be tourists while scavenging for opportunities. At night, as the city's neon lights glowed and families' windows lit up, our loneliness deepened. With nowhere to stay, we curled up on park benches, in 24-hour convenience store corners, or near warm office building vents. Chicago nights were freezing. We wore all our clothes and still shivered. We clung to each other, sharing what little body heat we had. Hunger was an even crueler enemy. We stretched every penny, splitting the cheapest bread. Sometimes, desperate, we'd hit supermarket sample stations, gobbling cheese and crackers like fake customers before fleeing judgmental stares. We thought about giving up, going home, but the thought of that cold house and those unbearable people kept us going. Emily was tougher than me. She'd say, "Chloe, hold on. The sun will rise." Just when we were on the brink of despair, fate offered a small smile. Cold and hungry, we stumbled into a quieter neighborhood where a flower shop's warm lights caught our eye. Peering through the window at the vibrant flowers, it felt like a fairy tale. The owner, a kind-looking woman in her 50s, didn't shoo us away. Instead, she brought out 2 cups of hot cocoa. That was Mrs. Peterson who changed our lives. She gently asked why we were out so late. We mumbled, unable to lie convincingly. Maybe it was the exhaustion and desperation on our faces, but she sighed and said, "You look about my daughter's age. It's too dangerous out here." She invited us inside to warm up by the heater. That cocoa was the sweetest drink I'd ever tasted. Mrs. Peterson listened to our halting story without prying too much, her eyes full of compassion. She told us her daughter was away at college, and the shop needed help. "If you don't mind the low pay, you can stay in the storage room out back and help with the shop," she said. Emily and I froze, then burst into tears, all our pent-up fear, grievance, and relief pouring out. We cried like lost children who'd found a mother. To us, it wasn't just a job. It was a home, a shelter from the storm. Working at the flower shop was the most peaceful, joyful time since we'd left home. Mrs. Peterson cleaned up the tiny storage room, adding 2 small beds and fresh bedding. She taught us about flowers, how to trim stems, arrange bouquets, and talk to customers. The shop smelled of fresh blooms and soil, a scent that soothed our wounds. Mrs. Peterson was like a true mother. She didn't just give us food and a small wage. She gave us respect and care. She remembered our birthdays with little cakes, cooked soup when we were sick, and patiently corrected our mistakes while encouraging us to learn. Under her influence, we shed our dust and timidity, learning to live like normal city girls. But peace didn't last. About a year later, Emily met a boy online who showered her with sweet words and promises. She fell hard, believing it was her destined love, a chance to escape her past. I warned her to be cautious. Online worlds are full of deception, but for a girl starved of love, his warmth was irresistible poison. We fought, and in the end, she left with her bags, picked up by a stranger she'd never met. I watched through the shop's window as she got into his car and vanished around the corner. I felt abandoned again. I stayed because I couldn't bear to leave Mrs. Peterson, who'd been so kind, and at not yet 18, I knew I'd struggle to find decent work elsewhere. For the next 2 years, the flower shop became my world. My bond with Mrs. Peterson grew closer, like a real mother and daughter. I worked hard to repay her kindness, learning to stand on my own and hide my emotions. On my 18th birthday, she gave me a big hug and said, "Chloe, you're an adult now." She urged me to go home and get my ID sorted, saying no matter the past, it's still your root. I took her advice and returned to the home I'd fled 3 years earlier, hoping time had changed things. But reality slapped me hard. My mother opened the door, her eyes flashing surprise but mostly estrangement and awkwardness. My stepfather glanced up from the couch, gave me a cold look, and went back to his TV. My brother, now taller, hid behind my mother, shyly calling me sister. At dinner, no one asked how I'd been or what I'd been through. The only question came from my mother cautiously. "You've been out there, you must have made some money, right?" That shattered all my illusions. I ate quietly, got my ID sorted the next day, and bought a ticket back to Chicago. I didn't look back. That place was no longer my home. I planned to stay at the flower shop forever, by Mrs. Peterson's side until she grew old. But fate had other plans. Soon after I returned, her health declined, and doctors said she needed rest, not work. New, trendy flower shops opened nearby, and our quaint little store's business dwindled. In the end, at her family's and doctor's urging, she decided to close the shop and move to live with her daughter. She gave me the remaining money and flowers, held my hand, and said, "Chloe, you're a good girl. Live well." I saw her off in a taxi to the airport, standing at the empty shop's door, feeling the last light in my life go out. I was homeless again, but this time, I wasn't the naive girl anymore. With an ID and some work experience, I started hustling. Over the years, I worked as a waitress, a retail clerk, a car salesperson, and a real estate agent. Those jobs exposed me to all kinds of people and taught me how to survive in this complex world. I soaked up everything that could make me stronger, becoming articulate, observant, and saving a little money. The real turning point came when I stumbled into social media e-commerce. I noticed people selling on Instagram and Facebook. I poured all my savings into selling skincare products and face masks online. I built my brand page, spending hours researching products, taking photos, writing copy, and learning digital marketing. I ran multiple accounts, tirelessly promoting in groups. My business went from zero to my first order, then steady daily customers. I moved from dropshipping to renting a small warehouse, packing and shipping myself. Those years, I barely had a day off. My life revolved around my shop. It was grueling, but watching my bank account grow gave me an unmatched sense of achievement. In a few years, I saved over $30,000, rented a nice apartment, and bought clothes and bags I liked. For the first time, I felt I'd taken control of my life. Things seemed to be heading toward a bright future. Then love crept in. In 2019, I met David, one of my customers. He'd asked detailed questions about skincare products for his then-girlfriend. After they broke up, he was down, posting sad things on Instagram. I reached out on WhatsApp as a friend, comforting him. We talked about everything: work, life, past, and future. I found him kind and polite. He admired my independence and resilience. Slowly, something sparked between us. One day, he asked me out to dinner and confessed his feelings. We fell into a relationship naturally. David was well off, a mid-level manager at a big company with a house and car. With him, I experienced the closest thing to happiness. He took me to fancy restaurants, bought me gifts I'd never splurge on, and gave me warm hugs after long workdays. I basked in the feeling of being loved and cared for, almost forgetting my past struggles. I naively thought I'd found the man I could spend my life with, that we'd have a beautiful future. But reality hit hard. When his parents heard about us, meeting them was a disaster. They lived in a nice suburban house, and from the moment I walked in, his mother sized me up with critical eyes. Over dinner, she casually asked about my family, education, and past. When I admitted I only finished middle school and built my life from scratch, her smile vanished. His father stayed silently condescending. I felt like I was on pins and needles. After that, our relationship cracked. His parents opposed us, saying my background and education didn't match their son's status, that I'd drag their family down. They pushed suitable women, doctors, lawyers, professors' daughters, onto him. David showed his weakness. He loved me but feared defying his parents. A classic mama's boy, he'd always lived by their plans. He sighed about their pressure, but never fought for me. Our love eroded in arguments and compromises. The seemingly perfect relationship ended in less than 10 months with his words, "I'm sorry, I can't lose my family." I didn't cry that day, just left his apartment calmly. Back in my own place, I broke down, clutching a pillow, sobbing until my heart tore. I felt abandoned by the world again. The breakup coincided with the pandemic's outbreak. Some say isolation and uncertainty bred gamblers, but I didn't gamble then. All my energy went into battling the pain of heartbreak. I locked myself in, working nonstop to numb myself. But my business took a hit, logistics stalled, consumer spending dropped, and my income plummeted. The double blow of career and love left me in unprecedented confusion and anxiety. The real turning point, or rather my downfall, came in 2022. Scrolling Instagram as usual, I saw a red marriage certificate that pierced my heart like a sword. It was David, married to a girl I'd never seen, smiling sweetly. His happy grin froze my blood. All my grievances, unwillingness, jealousy, and overwhelming loneliness flooded me like a tsunami. I turned off my phone, tears falling uncontrollably. I felt like a cosmic joke. I'd clawed my way out of the mud, thinking I could touch the sun, only to be kicked back down after a brief dream. I'd never known my father. My mother and stepfather were cold. My grandparents were long gone. Mrs. Peterson and Emily had faded from my life, and the only man I'd loved belonged to someone else. I was truly, utterly alone, an orphan in every sense. In that despair and self-denial, I frantically searched online for quick ways to make money. My business was tanking. I couldn't sit idle. I scoured Facebook entrepreneurship groups, looked into food carts and breakfast shops, but they required capital and energy I no longer had. Then, by chance, a stranger pulled me into a WhatsApp group called Wealth Code Daily Shares. At first, I just lurked. The group was buzzing, with people posting screenshots of profits, $5,000, $10,000. They tossed around jargon I didn't understand, sharing surefire strategies. Seeing those jumping numbers and cash photos, my resolve wavered. Group members shared rags to riches stories, claiming they were ordinary people who'd achieved financial freedom through this platform. For someone desperate to prove herself and escape her rut, those overnight wealth tales were lethally tempting. I thought maybe this was my shot. After days of watching, I clicked a link to a slick online gambling site. A fishing game called Deep Sea Treasure hooked me. Its vibrant graphics and thrilling sound effects were full of surprises. You shot cannonballs at fish for rewards, with rare golden sharks or deep-sea monsters offering hundreds or thousands of times the payout. I tried it with the minimum deposit, $100. I still remember my first game. My heart pounded, fingers stiff with nerves. I shot cautiously, watching my balance dwindle, panic rising. Just as I was about to lose it all, a golden shark appeared. I fired my biggest shot, hitting it. The screen exploded in fireworks and coins, my balance rocketing from a few bucks to over $500. The rush of joy overwhelmed me. That adrenaline high, the swing from despair to ecstasy, was unlike anything I'd felt. It was more money, faster, than weeks of packing orders. From that day, I was hooked. I believed I'd found my wealth code. At first, I was cautious, setting a daily limit of $200 in winnings before stopping. For half a month, I logged in like clocking into work, played for 30 minutes, hit $200, cashed out, and slept satisfied. It felt like an endless ATM. I even mocked my past hard work as foolish. But gambling's trap is its early sweetness, luring you to ruin. Once I got used to easy money, my luck turned. I started losing, small at first, $50, $100. I told myself it was just a blip, I'd win it back. But the losses grew. To recoup, I broke my rules, betting more, playing longer. My mindset shifted from winning to breaking even.